Hey, what's up you guys, it's Connor, and today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Edge of Worlds by Martha Wells. If you guys don't know, this is the fourth book in the Books of Raksura series, but the series is interesting in that there was an original trilogy, which starts off with the Cloud Roads, but then there were also two collections of short stories, which are right there, and they all take place before this book. So I'm gonna keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. The only thing is gonna be which characters from the series are still present and alive in this book, at least some of them. So other than that, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to spoil anything from the previous books, like any of the plot points or anything like that. So you guys are free to watch this if you want. How they end up going is that you want to read the original trilogy, and then you do want to read the two collections and then pick up the fourth book. And also this fourth book is treated almost like a duology with the fifth book. We'll get into that. This series mainly follows this one character. His name is Moon. At the beginning of the first book, he is traveling from town to town. He is trying to just find a place where he can be safe. He doesn't know the type of species that he is. He's able to transform between looking like a normal human and then having this winged form. And in this world, people are terrified of what is called the Fel. And the Fel are people that have this winged form and consume people, so they eat other species and everything like that. And so Moon does not want to be mistaken for one of these Fel. He knows he's something different, but he doesn't know what. Still at the very, very beginning of the first book, so this is not spoiling you, Moon runs into one of his own kind, and then throughout the course of the series, he's learning how to be a Raksura. Their societies are organized in courts, and they're led by a queen. You follow him as he's figuring out his place in this society, as well as protecting the people that he grows to love from the Fel. This fourth book in the series takes place quite a while after the ending of the original trilogy, so there has been some time that has passed. And so at the beginning of the book, you're learning what has been going on for the last couple of years. And Moon is a little bit different than he is in the original series. He's a little more settled. He's a little more confident in his place. So I've seen some people say that you can start with this book, but I definitely don't recommend it because you're not going to appreciate all of the characters and you're not going to appreciate all the things that have happened before and the things that are included in this because you don't know what happened before. So definitely read the original trilogy and then pick this one up. In this book, at the very beginning, there is a character from the original series that comes back and informs the Raksura that there is another ancient city and that it's potentially going to be very dangerous. So the Raksura then have to go and investigate this city. As usual with my book reviews, I'm going to go through my pros, go through my cons, give you my rating, and be done. My first pro for this book is that it does spend some time recapping what has happened in the previous books. So if you decide to just skip and jump into this series here, you're gonna know some of the stuff that happens because it does do some recapping, so you know which characters are which, you know how they relate to one another, you know their position in society and their abilities and everything like that. And for me, I really liked that recap because it's been years since I read the original trilogy, and so I was unsure if I was going to be able to jump back in to the series and read this book without rereading the others. I don't think that you need to reread the original trilogy if you've already read it. I think you're safe to just go ahead and read this one. Another pro for me is that in this series in general, there are so many different types of species. There are species that look nothing like humans that are able to communicate, and there are species that can fly. There's species that are in the water and everything like that. So I really love how varied the people are in this world, and I really love how varied the cultures are. In this, we focus a little bit more on some different cultures that we haven't learned about before. I really loved learning about the sealings in here, the ones that are in the water. And one thing that I really love in this series is that when they encounter a new species or a new group of people, they start just talking in as many languages as they know, trying to find a common tongue so that they're able to communicate and be able to ask questions or whatever. So I do like that a lot of the characters in this know at least 2 or 3 languages, and it's fun to see them meet up with new species and try to figure out how to communicate. Another pro for me is that I really loved learning a little bit more about Shade and Lithe. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Those are characters that are in the original series, but they're a little bit different than a lot of the other characters, and so their position in society is a lot more tenuous than the main characters. I do really like that we get some of them in here and learn a little bit more about what they're doing now. I want more of that. I really like those characters, and I really like seeing them interact and trying to find their place because they're not as confident in their positions in the society. And one pro that I had from the series overall, but I just enjoyed reading in here, was that I really like how this society is structured. I really like their culture. I like that it is run by a queen, and the queen has the final say, and everyone just follows her. The females of this species are a little bit more dominant than the males. Like the main character, Moon, he is always the little spoon when he's cuddling with his partner. He actually has two partners, so he is involved with a female Raksura as well as a male Raksura. So I just think that it's a really interesting culture to learn about and read about. They have a lot of physical contact when they're trying to show how much they care about someone, but like they'll be cuddling and then the next page they're gutting one of their enemies, and I'm like, these people go from huge softies to like badass, gonna take you out and kill you people. So they're a great time. That being said, I really love the characters in here. I did talk about Shade and Lithe, but I also love the main character, Moon. I love Jade and Chime. I love all the characters, and seeing them go through their different adventures and everything is always a fun time. I think Moon is one of those characters that you just can't help but root for, because he really just wants to give love and be loved and settle down, but he has to go on all these adventures, and I just love Moon. And my last pro that I'm going to talk about is that I do think that this city that they go to visit is very interesting. I don't think that we got as much on it as I was hoping to, but I do like what we got, and I do like that we saw what was going on in the city. I'm not going to spoil you. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of cons. My first con for this is that although I do appreciate the recap, it does slow down the plot getting started a lot. I think that there's not like an action scene until around 200 pages in. I think there's one time that there's like a tiny skirmish, but other than that, it's very slow, and there's a lot of traveling in here, which I know is not people's favorites. Traveling books tend to be very slow, and that's exactly what this is. So I wasn't loving all of that. I do like learning about the people and their cultures and how they relate to each other, but it was just a lot of traveling, and I wanted stuff to start happening. This book is also quite predictable. I predicted what was going to be going on at the end of the book so early, and I think that's because the foreshadowing in this is very heavy-handed. So unless you're just totally oblivious, you're going to know exactly where this book is going. You're going to know exactly what is going to be going on at the end. I'm not going to spoil you or anything like that, but it's not as satisfying because it was so easy to predict. And with that being said, my last con is that this ending of this book is not very satisfying. There's very little catharsis when you flip to the last page. All of the other books in the series do have a lot of catharsis. Like, each of the books has its own plot, but this one is definitely like a duology with the fifth book. I have seen other people, and I agree with this, is that you want to have both on hand and just go from one straight into the other, because nothing really is wrapped up in this. I expected at least some things to be resolved, but they really are not. You're going to get all of the answers in the fifth book. So it was a little disappointing because I finished it and then didn't have any reward for finishing it. Like, I didn't learn anything new, and all I was left with was just more questions and wanting to start the next book. And I do think that because I've come to expect a very good cathartic ending in these, that I was expecting it in here. So when it didn't happen, it was like, oh. I do love this world. I love the characters, as I said. I thought it was really interesting. And when I finish the fifth book and do a review on that one, I'm sure I'll look back on this one more positively. But as it stands, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars because I love the characters and a lot of the things that are happening in here, but there wasn't anything at the end that rewarded you for reading the whole book. I definitely will be continuing and reading The Harbors of the Sun because I want to find out what's going to happen next, and if that book makes this one worth it. But again, I love Moon, and I love my little babies that are in here. So that's going to be my review on The Edge of Worlds by Martha Wells. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and comment down below if you've read the Books of Raksura series, which is your favorite character. If you haven't read it yet, are you planning on starting it? Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.